All right. Well, we are here, episode 432. Is that where we're at? 432. I don't even know what episode we are. We don't have internet access here, so I don't know what episode we are. But I think we're episode 432. Dr. John Bergman, and we're going to be talking about blood pressure.
Yes.
It's funny when we when people write into our website, they'll sign up to our newsletter list, and I'd have to say there is probably like a 40% of the people that write in saying I need help with blood pressure. It's like the biggest.
Oh, it's the silent killer. It's something everyone should be afraid of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
We should all just be freaked out by it.
And that's the weird thing. It's so bizarre, the fear surrounded by a natural physiologic function. And it's a complete fallacy that high blood pressure is deadly. Instead, high blood pressure is actually adaptive. Mm-hmm. And even that, what's high? How is it measured?
Well, I read on the CDC this morning, they said 70%, or not 70%, 70 million people allegedly have high blood pressure. I don't know what that means, but in terms of like, is that, how high is that? What levels are they checking?
Oh, don't ask questions like that. Because when you look at it, there's about 40% of caribou also have extremely high blood pressure. Turns out that those are the ones that are being chased by wolves, and I guess blood pressure is supposed to be high for that group.
Maybe there's a medication we can put the caribou on. We can slip something.
Okay, so when I'm talking to medical doctors, and I do this a lot because we have a lot of healthcare professionals coming in to get their nervous system checked, I'll say, okay, are there any animal species on the planet that can't regulate their own physiology? And what's a trip is the average person will say, well, no, that sounds kind of stupid. Of course, every animal, every raccoon, rabbit, bear, caribou, giraffe, they're all going to be able to regulate their own blood pressure and cholesterol and blood sugar and their own physiology. That's, if they couldn't, they would not be in a viable species. So, but when you talk to medical professionals, do you know what the answer is? I don't know. I've never looked at any species. And so the switch from there is, how can you second guess the physiology of the human being? For one, it's not measured the same all around. The way we developed high blood pressure was from Dr. Kartkov back in about 1905. He found out that if you squeeze the blood or stop the blood flow of the arm or leg, and then as you slowly release the pressure on the item that's stopping the blood flow, as soon as you're able to hear a turbulence that's just distal or away from where you're shutting off the blood flow, you write down the amount of pressure that it takes for you to crush or stop that blood flow. You write down that number. And that's called systolic, or the first number, the high number. And then you slowly keep releasing that pressure. And then when you stop hearing the turbulence, you quickly check the pressure you're applying, and then you write down that's the second number. That's called diastolic. Okay. So this has been done for a little bit over 100 years. Now, the typical high number and the typical low number, back before about a year ago, they would call it 120/80 would be normal. And then they had a certain, and this is only in America. See, in India, they want it higher than 140. In Germany, they won't medicate you unless it's over 189. In England, it's 100 plus your age. Okay, but in America, about a year ago, it was 120/80. That was considered appropriate for everyone. Now, when they look at that, they would say, well, for every 5 millimeters of mercury or pressure increased, your risk of heart disease is greater, your risk of stroke is greater, yeah. And they always say stroke, heart disease, and kidney damage.
Right.
Are the result of having blood pressure that's too high. That's what they're saying. Mm-hmm. Well, so medicating this population to get their blood pressure controlled to that level caused extreme damage. And so now they changed it because that was under what's called the Joint National Committee. They get a group of pharmaceutical reps and doctors together, and they come up with certain parameters. And this is what the book that medical doctors look at. And if you conform to that configuration in that book, then it's appropriate. If not, then we give you a drug to bring your physiology down or up so that you can form to whatever parameters they think are more appropriate for the optimal human.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I'm saying this, and you can tell I'm totally friggin' sarcastic, but this is actually how it is. Figure 100 years from now, they're going to go, are you serious? Mm-hmm. Nobody thought about the function of blood, that there may be an individuality to this. What's the factors in blood? What does it actually do? Nobody's thinking of that. They're looking at this book. If you conform to the numbers, you're cool. If you don't, they give you something to force your blood down, your blood pressure down.
Well, you can see it's just a cash crop for that, because if they can put some artificial number on that and they can figure out, okay, well, let's just put this artificial number there and then let's control that number through medication, then 70 million people, that's 1 out of every 3 people have high blood pressure. That's just how many billions of dollars is that?
What is that medication actually doing? How is it controlling the?
Well, you've got a couple of drugs. There's an ACE inhibitor, a beta blocker, or a diuretic. Uh-huh. Okay, the diuretic is called a water pill. Okay, and so a lot of people are saying, no, I'm taking a water pill. It's not a blood pressure drug. And it's like, what? They'll take it for swelling of the legs, which is very, very common in sedentary lifestyles and poor diets. Mm-hmm. They'll take it for everything. But the problem is, any drug that forces blood pressure down, no one's asking the question about what the function of blood is.
And what else is it doing? What else is the medication doing?
What else is the medication doing? Exactly. Yeah. So when you look at it different. Oh, and by the way, we're under Joint National Committee 8 now. So it's no longer 120/80. It's now 159/95. Okay, so I just want to be clear on that.
Wait, say that again?
Yeah,
what's that all about?
No, I'm sorry. Do you have the old book? The old book is no longer valid. Yes. See, for 10 years, we were under Joint National Committee 7 guidelines.
Okay.
And that was 120/80. Okay, if you were over that, you got a drug to bring it down. And they found out that there were a lot of people passing out. There were a lot of increased strokes. There was a lot of diseases that are resulting from keeping the blood pressure artificially low. So now they raised it. Now it's 159/95. Oh, yeah. And I'm telling you, not everybody is up. And I'm talking, when I mean everybody, I mean the medical doctors that you're going to, they are still using a lot of the old book.
They didn't get the memo.
They didn't get the memo. I know. You got to have the memo.
You got to have the memo.
Okay. So wait a second. I mean, when you go back, what does blood do? And this is exactly how I got to talk to medical doctors, because we're opening up a clinic in Mexico, and we're taking supposedly holistic medical doctors, and we're putting them together with the purple striped unicorns. Okay, so we're taking holistic medical doctors, but I have to convert them into normal doctors. And I say, okay, doc, what's the function of blood? And all of a sudden you get this like weird look over their eyes, like, huh? Does it carry oxygen? Yes, it does. Does it eliminate waste products? Yes, it does. Does it balance pH? Absolutely. Is it vital to the immune system? Absolutely. Okay, so how are you healthier if you decrease any of those functions? And all of a sudden you get that pattern interrupt in the brain of like, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Well, wouldn't they say, though, that is lowering blood pressure actually lowering the functions, those 3 functions you just said?
Well, it's lowering blood flow. And you're absolutely right.
I'm just thinking, well, their response would be, well, it's not necessarily lowering those functions, but I don't know.
And that's the same way, because this is because you want to teach them in the Socratic method. You want to teach them through asking questions so that they start to question what's going on in their head. And this is what I'll typically say. Okay, when you're slowing down the pressure, you're either slowing down the pump or the heart, you're decreasing the volume with a diuretic. Okay, you're slowing down the pressure. Does that help oxygen get to the brain or slow it down? Now the average Joe would say, well, I don't know, maybe to slow it down, it seems like you're lowering the pressure. Okay, and when I'm talking to patients, I'll say, look, you're slowing down the heart. Does that help oxygen to the brain or slow it down? And so they kind of get it, because I don't want to ask questions on, the average contractor or, the IT guy or computer expert who's a genius in their field, and they never even thought that the beta blocker, ACE inhibitor, or diuretic is actually slowing oxygen down to their brain or changing their physiology. Their doctor has told them that this is life-saving and that high blood pressure is the silent killer.
Right.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, it's not. It's adaptive. See, when we look at the original numbers, the 120 over 80 or the systolic over diastolic, that is at a regular resting state or the same metabolic rate. And I got to walk you through this, because when I'm talking to regular people, and I'm talking master's, doctorate level, waitresses, laborers, everybody, every person that comes in our office, I'll say, do you want to check blood pressure when you're walking upstairs?
No.
And they'll typically say no. What about when you're jogging or riding a bike? And they'll look and smile and say, well, no, don't want to do that. And I'll say, well, why? Because it's going to be high, doc. It's going to be high. Yeah, exactly. So what you're telling me is that your blood pressure is going to go up or down depending on need. And so I walk them through and say, okay, well, it's going to take about 10 minutes to put your body in the same physiologic state so that you can get the same reading. So this way you can write it down on a piece of paper, and this way you can have something accurate. See, in the medical world, what's supposed to happen, and this never does, okay, you're supposed to have blood pressure taken at 3 different occasions at 3 different times of the day over a 2-week span. And then after the 3rd reading, if it's still high, then they put you on an ACE inhibitor or a beta blocker or a diuretic.
Yeah, it would make sense to average those out. And it would make sense, too, to do it when you first get up in the morning, do it when you're meditating, do it after you walk up a flight of stairs, and average all that stuff out. It seems to me that would be make the most sense.
It would make the most sense and be logical. Yeah. Except even that isn't accurate. Okay, so what I tell patients, sit down, diaphragmatically breathe, and I got to walk them through how when you breathe, the diaphragm comes down and the tummy comes out, because most people don't know how to breathe correctly. And you diaphragmatically breathe for 10 minutes, and then you take it. And I clue them into a machine called Respirate. And this is a $350 machine that it looks like a Walkman, and it forces you to deep breathe for 15 minutes. And the advertisement, FDA approved, that it will lower your blood pressure, equivalent of 2 blood pressure drugs all day long, by deep breathing for 15 minutes. And so I tell my patients, save the $350, go out to a really nice dinner or a nice weekend, and just deep breathe on your own for 10 minutes, and then check it. Because you have sensors in your body. And you actually have sensors in your neck that are carbon dioxide and pressure sensors. And if your carbon dioxide levels are high, then the blood pressure increases to get more blood flow into the lungs to get rid of that carbon dioxide, because carbon dioxide is an acid. And then that, when the carbon dioxide levels go down, then the pressure slows down to get that acid back up, because we need a very delicate pH balance to run our body.
So what role does the thickness of the blood play? Because people will say, cayenne pepper and things like that to thin your blood. Mm-hmm. If you have thinner blood, does it mean the pressure is less?
Wouldn't it? Isn't that cool? Now you're asking questions.
You would think, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. The viscosity of blood is hugely important.
Uh-huh.
And they have a mixture of gases. It's hydrogen and oxygen combined. It's in that glass there. Mm-hmm. It's called water. It's in the glass, It's amazing blood thinner. Yeah. In fact, it's like 70% of your body. Okay. And how many people are dehydrated? Mm-hmm. If they're dehydrated, their blood doesn't have that same viscosity. It's thicker. So the pump has to work harder. The problem is That pump has to work harder. What's one of the first drugs they'll give you? They'll give you a diuretic. Now, this stuff is toxic to the kidneys, and it causes you to lose fluid overall. So if you had high blood pressure from, dehydration in the first place, sure, blood pressure is going to go down after taking a diuretic or a water pill, but by gosh, it's going to bounce right back up. And the doctor's going to be concerned. So he's not going to give you or take away the diuretic. He's not going to check your blood viscosity. He's going to give you a beta blocker and a diuretic.
So what does he do? He gives you a diuretic and then calls you back in a couple weeks and test again?
Yep. Yep. Why not? So when you're talking about a money-making process, not just the drugs, we're talking about multiple office visits. Plus, we know the drugs, like the diuretic, that causes you to lose certain nutrients. Potassium is one of them, so it can cause cardiac arrhythmias. And then that's going to require another drug, like a blood thinner or warfarin. Or
is it just flushing too much stuff out?
It's
or
flushing
is it
too much out. You're altering the physiology of the body.
Yeah.
And then you got to start thinking, wait a second. So, and this is one of the things that is really confusing. Every doctor learns that the body is self-healing and self-regulating. If you cut yourself, you don't have to, don't let me be alone right now because I need to concentrate and heal my wound. No, the body does it automatically.
Right.
I don't need to sit here and say I got to interrupt the conversation because I just have to process something with my liver right now.
Right.
I know my kidneys screaming.
It's so true.
Your body is self-regulating and self-healing. So this also means, and this is what real doctors are going for. They're not going for one number. They're not going for the 120/80 like Joint National Committee 7, or they're not going for the 159/95 like Joint National Committee 8, or they're looking at the difference and the function and the effectiveness of the blood. Because what if somebody let's say they have a diet high in polyunsaturated fats. We know that causes the red blood cells to clump together, and it's called a rouleau coin formation. It actually looks kind of pretty. It looks like stacked coins when they shouldn't be. But that means that the red blood cells are not going to be that effective at carrying oxygen. So since you have ineffective blood, pressure has to go up to adapt to it. So say you got the average Joe. They just had breakfast at McDonald's. They're going to have, a nice, healthy granola bar that's soaked in sunflower oil, and then
or canola oil.
Yeah. Again, great polyunsaturated fats, but those cause the blood cells to stink together. Okay, now they're having digestive issues, so they'll take an antacid, Tums, or Rolaids or omeprazole. They're going to get like the really big one, the little purple pill for 24 hours of relief. Low acid causes the blood cells to clump together. So the typical person with a diet high in polyunsaturated fats or taking antacid medications for reflux or not drinking enough water, the blood isn't going to be effective. So the output of the heart, or the first number, that's systolic, is probably going to have to increase in order to maintain a healthy blood pressure or an effective blood pressure. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the body's working. I mean, people think that high blood pressure, the numbers are bad, but it's really the body's doing that on purpose because, it's like you said, the blood's not effective, right?
Exactly.
So it needs to raise it to accomplish some sort of task.
And this is why when we go back to how blood pressure is checked, how they're increasing the pressure to where they stop the blood flow, then they slowly decrease it and get a number and slowly decrease it further and get the second number. The first number, the high number, systolic, is considered the output of the heart. Not really, but that's kind of like the rough idea. The second number, the diastolic, the lower number, is considered the overall pressure of the body. It's not really, but it's kind of like a rough guide to how the body works. So we got the output of the heart and the overall pressure of the body. Now, what real doctors are looking at is the difference between the high number and the low number. And it's called the pulse pressure. And that should be about 40. Okay, and so if you have somebody with blood pressure of 160/120, in my world, that's absolutely normal. Okay, they may have some higher stressors. We may ask them how they're sleeping at night, but the pulse pressure there is around 40.
So how high would you go to where if they maintain that difference of 40, how high would you go to where you're starting to think about something being an issue?
Oh, no, what you look at is the stress level.
Okay.
On the patient, not the blood pressure, because the blood pressure is adaptive. That's the mind change.
Okay.
So it's not that we need to do something to control the blood pressure. That's allopathic. That's taken a symptom, thinking that we're a lot smarter than the body. So we're going to give a chemical to alter that, or an herb to alter it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same thing that's happening in the holistic world.
Yeah. It's not. The body is smarter than any doctor out there. So if you have somebody with, say, athletes, typically they're the ones that are lifting, working out, everything else. Now, when you're lifting and you're straining and you're lifting up that giant weight in the gym, your blood pressure could be as high as 400 over 200. I mean, it could be you running upstairs with groceries. It could be 350.
Are you exaggerating that, or is that
that's actually
possible?
normal? And under straining, blood pressure can go that high. So your system is able to withstand great pressures. And what's neat about that is, let's say somebody, Dr. DeWitt's a great example, pro football player for 12 years. I mean, he is in the gym lifting like crazy. So the body adapts. Just like you develop big muscles, you're going to develop thicker arterial walls. And the artery actually has 3 different layers. It has an outer layer, it has a middle layer that's a muscular layer. And the muscular layer of the arteries actually contracts or constricts the artery, and it dilates. So the arteries are always constricting and dilating in order to adapt to the blood flow. Okay. In fact, arteries will constrict or get smaller, just like you'd put your thumb over the hose on a water hose, and then it would increase the pressure and throw the water further. Well, the same thing with the body. The body, if it requires higher blood pressure, it's going to constrict the blood vessels in order to raise the blood pressure. And it's going to open them up, like opening up a rapid into a big, wide-flowing river, where it slows it down. So you have this constant constriction and dilation. Now, if you're used to having higher pressure, it takes more pressure to constrict the arteries. This is why a lot of athletes and a lot of ethnic groups, like African American or African males, they typically have thicker arterial walls. So we go back to the psychosis of how do they check it? They measure it by shutting off the blood flow. So they're measuring how much pressure it takes to stop the blood flow. Okay, then they slowly release it until they hear a turbulence. Okay, and then they release it further until they stop hearing the turbulence. See, I'm saying that because that's not accurate in the first place. It's a real rough guide. It's not accurate. It's not based in science. It can be reproducible, but nobody really knows what that turbulence you're hearing is, and it shouldn't be universal. We shouldn't check one pressure or one amount of pressure to crush one arm as opposed to another arm. When you start saying that, it's like, I mean, Kate, your arm's the size of about 3 of my fingers.
It kind of is my little Kermit arm. But yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make sense to say that you would take the same pressure to crush both of your...
I mean, think about all the different things that goes into each person. There's ethnicity, their diet, their ancestral diet, their stress and pressure in their life, whether or not they're athletic, all the different things they're doing in their life. There's so many things that make up how each person's unique physiology would be. For anyone or for any organization to say that, your blood pressure needs to be right within this range, at what point in your life, what if you need to increase your blood pressure to carry out the stress of trying to save your marriage or your job or something? And so there's, you know what I mean? There's so many things. I mean, you talk about it with your patients all the time, but there's so many things that goes into just trying to standardize everyone into this into this sort of narrow window. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense at all. Let's say that you believe the lie that an aspirin a day for a healthy heart was good for you. And we now know definitively that the aspirin a day is toxic to the kidneys and toxic to the gastrointestinal tract and increases stroke. So it's not healthy. But what if you were taking the aspirin a day and you happen to really like desert riding? Okay, you had a sand rail and you like going, and I'm describing one of our patients who comes down from Canada who had kidney damage, okay, because he's bouncing his body around, okay, and he was taking the aspirin a day, which weakened the blood vessels. And so now he's got damage to his kidneys. Now, luckily, the kidneys are super vascularized. Okay, there's tons of blood vessels in the kidneys. So if you clean up the blood, restore the nerve supply, the kidneys can heal very, very quickly. Except during that healing process, he has blood that needs to be filtered by these kidneys. Now, there's less surface area in the kidneys. So the blood pressure during that healing process, what do you think has to happen? It has to go up.
Yeah, sky high.
It has to go sky high. What if he was drinking soda pop at the same time, with a genetically modified high fructose corn syrup? He's going to have a fatty liver disease. And it's called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, super rampant in our culture. By gosh, to get the same blood through that liver with less surface area, pressure is going to have to increase. What if you're having damage to the arteries because you're eating a diet that's toxic? Remember we talked about the arteries being big and wide or constricting, that they open and close to regulate pressure all day long? If that artery wall is damaged, the surface area isn't going to be as smooth and as viable. So the blood pressure has to adapt to increase to that toxic deficient lifestyle. This is where the doctors are going. So how high is too high? It's not. All of those to a diet high in polyunsaturated fats or taking antacids or even low acid production as we age, the blood cells can be unhealthy blood unless you're adapting, taking enzyme inducing.
What do you think about men giving blood to helping? Is that effective in helping lower blood pressure, do you think?
Oh, temporarily. It's actually really good for you. It's incredibly effective for certain conditions. Like hematochromatosis. It's a production of too many red blood cells. But it's actually a good medical procedure for most. And, sometimes blood can be life-saving in emergencies, so you get a chance to give back to your community.
Yeah.
And also, to your red blood cells are not that old. They're brand new. Every 6 million red blood cell you've got, every one of those suckers is brand new every 120 days.
How long do they live?
120 days.
Oh, mostly.
That's it. Well, that's the red blood cells.
Wow.
And this is the brilliance of what the spleen does. The spleen checks each red blood cell, and when they've reached their limit of carrying the oxygen, then it sends the red blood cells over to the liver. Liver takes that protein, breaks it down into bile, and uses that to break down fats. So when you talk about people who have had gallstone issues, then the blood's not healthy. Blood's not healthy? Really? How long have you been on blood pressure drugs? It's all tied in.
So if someone's on blood pressure medication, how does that affect their ability to come off of that and to be completely normal after that? Is there any long-term damage to being on that?
Yeah. Figure it's slowing down the oxygen to the brain. It's slowing down the oxygen to the kidneys. And what's interesting, when you look at the federal sites or the government sites on kidney disease, they'll say the leading treatments of high blood pressure is diuretic and diuretics, the water pills, and aspirin, okay, because it'll thin the blood. And then you look at the next paragraph on the same thing for kidney disease in the government, and it says the leading causes of kidney disease are diuretics and aspirin. So the leading therapy is to thin the blood and get the pressure down, and the leading cause is the blood thinners and the pressure. It's nuts.
Medications are spooky. I'm thankful I've never been on them. I've never been on really any medications. I was on a medication when I was in high school for an irregular heartbeat or something for a couple of years. But other than that, just aspirin. But I haven't taken any medication or anything since 2003. And man, it's just spooky being on that stuff.
You don't need it. And this is the trick. To get off of blood pressure drugs, make sure you have healthy digestion, healthy nutrition. Okay. And also you need to have a healthy nerve system. And once you get your nervous system, because if you're in this fight or flight system, if you're under stress, if you have poor sleep, your blood pressure needs to be high. If your diet is poor, if your blood is unhealthy, your blood pressure needs to be high. But the body never does anything unintelligent.
So what happens when someone takes like, people that have issues with blood pressure and they take maybe vitamin D3 because that's an issue with blood pressure? Or I was reading recently, European mistletoe is really good and effective. But if someone's taking an herb or supplement like that, and they're lowering their blood pressure, their body obviously wants it to be high, right? So even though you're taking an herb instead of a medication, what's going on? You're still hindering the body from doing something, right?
Yeah, you're second guessing the intelligence of the body.
Yeah.
You got to answer the question, why is the blood pressure high? That's it. You figure out the physical, chemical, or emotional stress load. You never lower the blood pressure, ever. No human being is ever healthier. And they'll even have this on every blood pressure study around. Yes, we did lower their blood pressure. And statistically, people with lower blood pressure live longer. They're never going to say this blood pressure drug that the guy's been on for 20 years made him live longer, healthier, and more dynamic, less disease rates. There's no study out there that shows that. So when you look at the physical, chemical, or emotional stress load, and you take care of the physical, chemical, and emotional stress load, the blood pressure is going to adapt to that new environment. If you can't sleep at night, if your diet is poor, if you're in a sympathetic dominant state where you're in that fight or flight state, how many people are diagnosed with low functioning thyroid? Because of an inflammatory condition, because inflammation decreases the thyroid function. And then they go to a healthcare professional, whether they could be a naturopath, homeopath, medical doctor, chiropractor, and they say, oh man, you got adrenal fatigue because your thyroid's been so low for so long. Oh, your blood pressure's increasing. Your digestion is poor. I mean, it's all tied in. To look at blood pressure as pathology is beyond foolish. To look at blood pressure as adaptive to a toxic deficient lifestyle is right on.
So I was reading where they say, I don't know if this is true, you probably know, is people that live in higher northern climates have an issue with blood pressure because of the vitamin D3. Do you think that's true?
Now, let's also look at it. It's not true. And it is true. Okay, and I'm not trying to be evasive, but they do have low vitamin D3 because of less sunlight.
Canada or something.
Yeah, and this is why like the native populations in that area would get a huge amount of vitamin D from the fish oils. So that's why they had a diet super high in fat, so they would be able to adapt to the low light environment. Okay, but it wasn't just the vitamin D3. In thicker, colder climates, the blood becomes thicker. So it's kind of like if
it has to, right?
It has to. Yeah. It has to, because if you're in a less oxygen environment where you're higher elevation, like let's say we do this radio show in Denver. Okay, there's a lower oxygen environment. Your kidneys are going to start to produce erythropoietin. Your red blood cells are starting to be produced, so your blood's going to get thicker. And if the blood's thicker, it's going to be a little bit higher. Okay, because the body's got to push it through. So if it's colder, it's going to have to be a little thicker as well. If there's maybe more dehydration because you're not drinking as much water as it's colder, again, that would be adaptive. So it's not that low blood pressure is healthier and high blood pressure is unhealthy. That's not true.
So what are they saying then when they say it's correlated? They say, it's correlated with stroke and heart disease and things like that. What's all that about?
This is the neat part. Oh man, you nailed it. Okay, exactly. Okay, now let's see. Does high blood pressure cause stroke? If that were true, and we go into a situation where we're going to elevate our blood pressure, okay, let's say we elevate it for hours. Let's say you and me get on a bike and we do the Rosarita to Ensenada ride. Okay, man. We're riding 7 miles straight up. This mountain is El Tigre. It's a bear. Trust me. I've done it a couple of times. Okay, so you're going for hours. Are there a lot of bikers just stroking out on the side of the road there? No.
And we live in a main bike route. Haven't seen it yet.
Not one
Tons of
stroker.
street, but no, not yet.
Okay. So high blood pressure doesn't cause it. But now let's look at what a stroke is. A stroke is lack of oxygen or blood flow to an area. Okay. So now let's say if the blood is toxic and deficient. Let's say the guy has got a diet high in polyunsaturated fats. They're not sleeping. If they don't sleep really well, they have insomnia. They're going to be in this fight or flight state, this stress state. They're going to have low acid production, which means they're not going to have healthy protein digestion, so their blood cells are going to get sticky. Let's say they're dehydrated. Okay, so I'm just talking the average Joe. Okay?
Yeah.
Or the average Jolene.
Jolene. I love it.
So the blood's not going to be healthy. So now the pressure has to increase. So you have this unhealthy blood, and the body is adapting to that unhealthy blood by increasing the pressure. Now, let's say that you take a blood pressure drug, and this is the cause of the strokes. Okay, all of a sudden you take a drug because you go to the doctor. They don't say the physical, chemical, and emotional stress load. They don't say, hey, let's get your blood healthy. They don't say, let's going to do a live blood cell analysis to see actually the shape of the cells and the function of the cells. They're just checking pressure. These guys are so downstream, they're not looking at the cause. And then, so what happens is, you've got the blood pressure drug slowing your blood down, and the blood is not effective at doing its job. It can't carry oxygen. It can't regulate the pH because it's ineffective. So now what's the body going to do? You remember, we got the arteries. Okay, they close down or constrict in order to increase pressure, and you're taking a drug that forces that blood pressure down. Now, do the drugs, and this is a tough one, do they slowly, gently release their chemical into the body over a period of hours?
No. Bam, right into your system.
Spikes. Okay.
Yikes.
And so what happens is you got the average Joe and Jolene. Okay. They go to the fast food place. Okay. They're put on a couple of blood pressure drugs. All of a sudden they take it in the morning. Bam, it hits their system. They digest it. All of a sudden, the blood pressure falls too low. They feel a little dizzy. All their blood cells or blood vessels constrict. And you've got this rouleau coin formation where the blood can't get through. And you got arterial damage. So that constriction of the blood vessels trying to get the pressure up to the tissue inadvertently clogs that artery, temporarily constricting the blood flow.
So that's what's going on with strokes. There's this whole cascade of events. It's
the cascade of events because it's not high blood pressure that causes the stroke. It's the high blood pressure that's adapting to a sick, toxic, deficient system. And that sick, toxic, deficient system it's the red flashing light. It's the body saying, look, man, change your diet, change your stress level. Let's get some healthy blood flow in this system.
I would think stress would be most, one of the biggest contributors, because we're so stressed out in this culture.
It is.
People trying to make rent, trying to make their mortgage, trying to pay the bills, pick up kids, run errands, and get all this stuff done, and being super mom or super dad and trying to accomplish everything. It seems to me like everybody is living with some sort of low grade, and it may even be middle grade, middle tier, just stress all day long.
We just did a talk on women's health, and we're talking about women specific diseases like tumors or ovarian cysts, difficult menstrual cycles, higher rates of depression, anxiety, everything. And we looked at all of the different systems, like in musculoskeletal, integumentary, endocrine, vascular, everything. And what ties in all those systems? What ties in all of those diseases? Is there a central tie to the conditions that women are facing? It's the exact same correlate when you say, is there a consistent tie to blood that's not healthy and blood pressure that could be elevated in order to adapt? Yeah, it is stress. Mm-hmm. The physical, chemical, and emotional stressor. The high blood pressure is not a disease. It's not the silent killer. By God, it's adaptive. It's keeping you alive.
And it's warning you, right?
It's warning you.
It's just a warning signal.
Yeah, because we could all have higher blood pressure by hiking in the desert, and your blood pressure is going to go up, and you can make it in the desert for a long time, a couple of days.
There was a guy in my gym. This was the most bizarre thing. He was deadlifting tons of weight. I don't know, 400 or 500 pounds or something. And he started sweating out of his head, or not sweating, but bleeding out of his head.
Yeah.
So much stress trying to lift a deadlift that he started bleeding out of the top of his head.
Wow.
I mean, imagine if you took that guy's blood pressure.
And his eyes. Remember that? Ugh.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that. The lifting in the gym.
Unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable. I mean, it's like...
But now, would he be healthier taking a diuretic, a beta blocker, and an ACE inhibitor, and then, okay, buddy, go ahead and lift?
Yeah, that would be a bad problem.
Drop like flies.
But we're asking the same thing. I mean, lifting the weight is a physical stress. You got just like what you described. You got the stressed out parent having to pick up the kid and worried about the bills and how do they pay for the private school, and good God, now they're forcing vaccinations, and that's the same thing as lifting that weight.
It's just low grade, just goes on forever, and people can't go to sleep because their mind's going all day long. And
there you go. Yeah, so high blood pressure is not a disease, it's adaptive. You check it by deep breathing 10 to 15 minutes a day, and then you can check it if you want. Okay, but again, that's not an accurate measurement of health. Assume that your blood is unhealthy right now. Wake up and say, my God, my blood is thick, it's toxic, it's not working right. So I'm going to start doing a quart of vegetable juice every day, root vegetable juice, so I can get the soluble fibers to clean the arteries. By God, I'm going to start to do 2 to 3 liters of fresh water every day, so I know the viscosity in my blood is healthy. I'm going to start to make sure I get deep sleep every night, 6.5 hours of sleep every night. I'm going to walk and exercise a half hour a day. I'm going to pray and meditate every day. I'm going to get my nervous system checked out by the corrective chiropractor. I'm going to do all the aspects of life. And then, do you need to check it? No. And this is one of the things that I'm asking people that are into the drug world. I just had this couple from Washington, and they're coolest couple ever. The wife was saying, no, I'm here mainly for my husband. And then I find out she's taking high blood pressure medication. She has heart palpitations. She's got 4 kids. And I mean, you want to hug these guys. I say, no, man, I'm going to be taking care of you too. But her physical, chemical, and emotional stress were high. And I said, okay, do you have a cat? Yeah, I have a cat. Do you have a dog? Yeah, I have a dog and a cat. Yeah, we live on San Juan Island. Yeah, we're up there. Okay. And I said, well, you ought to give the cat some blood pressure drugs because cats are pretty high strung around dogs. And she looks at me and her mouth drops open. She said, I'm not going to do that. That doesn't make any sense at all. I said, I know. We're going to talk to you about blood pressure. There's no animal, dog, or cat that can't regulate their physiology. There's no bear that can't do it. It's a lie to the public, and it's a lie you're dishonoring yourself to say that my body is so weak, I need vitamin D3 to regulate my blood pressure. No, your blood pressure is high because you're D3 deficient, for God's sake. You don't have high blood pressure because you're living in Denver or high oxygen. The blood pressure has to be higher in that environment.
What role do heavy metals play? Because a lot of people will say that the exposure to heavy metals is one of the contributors. I mean, you were saying stress, but stress could be foods we eat, lack of sleep, that's a stress. All these things. And heavy metals, I've heard, play a big role in blood pressure. But
exactly. But let's see why. The heavy metals, does that could that leave deposits in the brain?
Yes.
Absolutely. Now, the brain burns about 25% of the total overall oxygen of the body. So if you have areas of the brain that are starting to break down, or they're starting to be ineffective or inefficient, should blood pressure increase to increase oxygen, increase lymph flow, increase immune system, because the immune system can get rid of certain heavy metals. I mean, with the exposure that we have today, we're reaching beyond our physiologic limit in a lot of cases to where we can withdraw those heavy metals. But sometimes we've reached our limit. This is why, what should blood pressure on autistic kids be? Is their blood healthy? Is their blood not healthy?
I don't know. What's the answer to that? Is there a? I mean, I don't suspect anyone's blood pressure should be anything other than what it is, and as looking at that as an indicator of other things you can fix in the body. But with autistic kids, do they have a higher blood pressure than?
I've never seen a study on it, but think of the stress level they're under. Okay, would you even want to check it? Do you check a 12-year-old's blood pressure? Do you check a 10-year-old's blood pressure? Do you know what I mean?
So you're saying, why are we doing this with adults?
And why are we doing it with our species? It doesn't make sense. It's a poor indicator of the body.
And why are we doing it in an office? Like I was saying on the way over here, my mom, I mean, it's the white lab, what do they call it? The white coat syndrome. She goes in and I swear it's like through the roof, so she's tired of that after hearing, you have high blood pressure, So she bought her own machine, brings it home. But now she's scared of the machine because she knows how it was the outcome at the office. So she tripped herself up in her mind, and I'm going, Mom, why do you even do this to yourself? Yet she won't take any meds. So I'm like, well, then why bother? I'm like, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Have her look at our blood pressure class. We've got a website called bpclass.com. BP, like blood pressure, class.com. And it's so fun because we walk through that. Because I tell you, go out, invest $40, get the blood pressure checker, or realize that a cold room, a full bladder, talking while you take it increases the blood pressure. Okay. And what you're thinking about. And again, you got to deep breathe at least 10 minutes diaphragmatically before you take it. So if you're deep breathing 10 minutes, your arm is resting level with your heart, and then 10 minutes goes by, bam, you take it. Okay, that's an accurate reading kind of right now there for that time frame.
But 10 minutes later, it rises or falls, so it's not even really an accurate thing.
No, it's not an accurate
As with
measure.
any test, really, because you look at the blood, you look at any sort of test you get, it just shows you a snapshot in time, of what's going on at that time, in that moment. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, experiment around. Do the exact same test without deep breathing. Don't sleep good the night before. Watch a scary movie before you go to bed. Get up early. I mean, come on, do it on the weekend. Really screw your physiology up. Check your blood pressure. Okay, don't drink a lot of water. Go out, get some high fructose corn syrup. Make sure it's genetically modified. Down a couple of them. Okay, really screw up.
You heard it here first, people.
Yeah, and then check your blood pressure and say, oh my God, it's high. Okay, then go out, get some vegetable juices. Make love with your sweetheart. Go to bed really good. Wake up. Have another glass of water. Deep breathe and check it.
So what role does sleep? Because you've mentioned that a lot. Like when people don't get enough sleep, what happens? Why does that affect blood pressure?
Because deep sleep is when you look at the automatic system that you have, your automatic system is composed of a nervous system in two halves. And it's really what your body can do. You go into protection or you go into growth. And that's the only two things your body understands. So you have the sympathetic, which keeps you into the fight or flight and protection mode. And you have the parasympathetic, rest, digest, and repair. Now, these two systems are active whether you're awake or asleep. The sympathetic or fight or flight is mainly active during waking times. The parasympathetic is mainly active during sleep. Now, during sleep, you go through about 4 to 5 90-minute periods of REM state or rapid eye movement sleep a night in healthy sleep.
4 to 5
REM states of sleep a night.
Okay, and how long do those last?
90 minutes.
About 90 minutes.
Okay.
About 90 minutes, in the ballpark, okay? And that's if you're getting very effective sleep. Very few people get effective sleep. Now, let's say that you're exposed to like a blue type light, like a television or computer screen. That's going to interrupt melatonin production. You interrupt melatonin production, you're not going to have deep sleep. You don't have deep sleep, your body cannot regenerate the system. So you're not going to have that parasympathetic nerve supply while you're sleeping at night. You're not going to be regenerating tissue. So your body goes into this fight or flight mode, this trench warfare, where you're trying to live the same life without digesting and resting and regenerating. So you're just in trench warfare. So your blood pressure has to adapt. Your physiology has to adapt to that toxic environment. Thyroid's going to be low. The adrenals are going to go high in an intelligent response to the lack of sleep. Okay, so this is why we do a couple hours on just sleep. That's vital. Wow. Because that's when your body regenerates. Because you're a cell regenerating machine. If that blood is brand new every 120 days, we need to think the blood cells are generally reproduced at nighttime. You know, when do you have growth spurts? At nighttime. When do you, because
muscles grow, like athletes, people that work out or need a lot of sleep to rebuild their muscles.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Think of the brilliance of that, because your body is a cell regenerating machine, and that takes a shitload of effort.
Yeah.
It's a cruel joke though. I mean, we have, you know, how much time we have on this earth, and it's a bummer that we have to, you know, sleep for a third of it. Wouldn't that be cool? I just would love it if I just didn't have to sleep.
Well, that's when you look at optimal sleep.
You know,
the optimal amount of sleep is about 6.5 to 7 hours, no more than that. If you sleep more than 8, there's a higher disease rate. If you sleep less than 6, there's more of a disease rate. So there's an actual human being optimal length of sleep.
But for what age?
Oh, every age. Well, when you're younger, like infant type stuff.
Yeah, because they're sleeping forever.
Yeah, so we're talking about skeletal maturity, 18 to 25 to, you know, whenever you...
So even with older people, because older people take naps and they sleep a lot too. I mean,
yeah, if they're prepping for sleep, because a lot of people don't prepare for sleep. You should prepare for sleep like you prepare for a tennis match. You know, you have to journal, you have to read something on paper, you have to have a completely dark environment. You cannot be watching TV, you cannot be looking at the computer. And by journaling, reading something on paper, and keeping a totally dark environment, then you have to realize that we have certain circadian rhythms that we have to, we're an animal species living on this planet. And so we have certain rules. So you're to sleep by the latest 10 to 10:30 at night, and you get up at about 4 to 4:30 in the morning. And if you maintain that pattern for about 21 days, you're going to reset your circadian rhythms, and you're going to have deep sleep.
So wait, 10 to 10:30 at night to 4 to
4:30 in the morning.
Do most people just their mouths drop at that because they're thinking there's no way to get used to that kind of a thing?
Oh yeah, but what's interesting? I mean, I go to sleep between about 9:30, 10, and I get up at 4.
Wow.
Okay, that's my pattern, but I don't have any interruption in sleep. You know, I mean, I practice. I'm expert sleeper. Been doing it now for about 50, 60 years.
For my whole life.
and so when you look at this, you have to master that sleep. But they do. This is the greatest cure for insomnia too. And it blew me away. I was looking at the study out of Glasgow, Scotland, and you know, because I got a lot of patients that had sleep problems. This is like 20 years ago I saw the study.
Yeah, sleep is huge for people.
And they say to solve a sleep issue, interrupt sleep, shorten it. And I thought that was like mind-blowing. You find out that the average insomniac stays about 14 hours a day in bed, but they don't sleep. They're rolling around. It's poor sleep, poor quality. So you interrupt sleep patterns, okay? You give them a set pattern. You decrease sleep, so you fatigue them out. I got to tell you, within 5 days of doing that pattern, 100% of the people start to achieve REM state of sleep. There's no naps during the day. They got to go through it. I mean, we've got an entire hour on just sleep and how beautiful it is and how restorative.
Have you heard of the polyphasic sleep cycles and all that? Where people sleep for 20 minutes, you know, intermittently throughout the day, and they'll just go do these different cycles for 24 hours, and eventually they'll be able to just turn off the sleep for, you know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then they get up and they keep doing. Then 3 or 4 hours later, they'll do the same thing. And that doesn't sound fun to me.
Well, no. That's actually because when I was doing the research on the sleep study, I was watching the military channel, and that's what they're teaching the Navy SEALs. See, if you could live without sleep, no problem, but you die and go insane without REM state. Okay, the rapid eye movement. And these guys, they got to stay awake for like 3 and 4 days at a stretch. So they're teaching them to get in that REM state of mind, okay, while they're doing a rhythmic activity or while they're still. It's almost like an incredibly deep meditative state.
I was just saying, yeah, like
shut off.
Meditation or something.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Wow.
So you could live without sleep, but you would die without the REM.
Yep. Yeah, and this is why it's such a great torture. It's still used today, where you keep people awake and interrupt REM.
They just go crazy.
They go crazy. Yeah, a couple of weeks you could break anyone.
I've heard that what is it? The left side. What side of the brain is the analytical side, and what side's the creative side?
Generally, left is analytical, right's creative.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard that it's the left side of the brain that needs to sleep. The creativity side doesn't need to sleep. But I don't know. I mean, it's just, because people, I'm not sure what the world record is for someone to go without sleep, but yeah, I know there's a guy.
I think you should try it. Just kidding.
No,
there's a guy
who die. Don't do it. It's like, I wonder what the world record for drinking water is. No, there's a hormetic level and a non-hormetic level.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's like water's good for you, but too much will kill you.
Yeah.
Vegetables are good. Too much will kill you.
So you like the 10:30 to 4, somewhere around there?
Yeah, 10 to 10:30, 4 to 4:30 is the greatest way to break an interruption in sleep cycles so that you can reset your circadian rhythms. That's absolutely proven. And you want to sleep about 6.5 hours, 7 max, about 6 to 7 hours.
So like you said before, people that are sleeping more
get higher disease rates.
See, I feel like I don't feel as great if I don't get 8 hours.
Yeah, because you might not be effective or practiced at sleeping.
Okay.
So like, how good are you at ping pong?
I'm getting better, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, playing left-handed.
I'm really, really good.
Oh, really?
Okay. So now
I might have to have a game one day.
I'll throw down the glove. Get my glove.
I have to turn this into a ping pong game.
Okay, it was a crappy analogy for me. But what I wanted to do, if you'd never done a sport before, okay, and I'd say, okay, let's go out and play. You'd say, well, can I practice a little? You have to practice at sleep to get good at it. And I know you think, well, that sounds kind of weird, but do the set pattern. Journal. And I'm talking a line to half a page right before you go to bed. What you did that day, what you're going to do tomorrow, any thoughts you may have concern. I don't care if you throw the paper away, but that quiets the overactive mind. So now you're getting that logic center to kind of like calm down because you've physically written something down, not typing it. You got to physically write it down.
Really? So you want to get off the keyboard or the texting or any of that stuff?
Yeah. This is just physically journaling. So you have that muscle movement, okay, to write it down. And then that quiets the overactive mind. You physically read something on paper, okay, and it's got to be something boring. No Zane Grey. Have you ever read?
Who's that?
Oh God,
do I want to know?
Zane Grey. Westerns I grew up with when I was a teenager. Amazing. And Rhett picked her up in his arms, and they threw on the horse, and it was just like, oh God, I got to read the next chapter.
It was just too good.
It was too good. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, you see a Western, gunfight. It's just like incredible. Okay, but something boring.
Something technical, maybe, or boring,
technical, boring, historical. Yeah. Anything that you're not really interested in.
Someone's dissertation.
Yep. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
My blood pressure book. Okay, so you read that, okay, and with about 15 minutes, okay, and then it has to be totally dark. So you cover the clock radio, maybe you get the night shades, and bam, you're done. You do the prep. You get it, make sure it's quiet and dark, because in between those REM state of sleeps, in between those 90-minute cycles, your eyeballs open just a little bit. And this is something that every animal species does, because your eyeballs open up just to make sure the cave is safe. And if there's anything that catches your eye, bam, the sympathetics fire on to get you ready to protect home.
So that's why the eyes open up a little bit. You can see like our dog's eyes roll back, and you can see,
and they're still asleep, but they're just making sure everything's safe. And remember, you got the parasympathetic regenerating cells during that 90-minute cycle, or those 90-minute cycles of REM. And so you want to master that 90-minute cycle, or master achieving that REM state of sleep. And then in the morning, you'll wake up, you'll be kind of tired, and then all of a sudden the light will hit, and you'll think, hey, my sympathetics are firing off. I'm feeling pretty good. I must have slept good, and then,
gosh, that must be so nice to get up at 4:30 in the morning.
No, 4:30 would be nice. 4 is hard.
4 is hard.
Yeah, well, that's because I get up at 4, but by 4:30, I'm feeling really perky.
But to get up that early and to have so much, to be able to get so much done in a day,
it's really, really fun.
Yeah, because no one's up, and I don't know, it seems like it would be so cool.
Well, I start seeing patients at about 5 in the morning, about 10 after 5.
Oh.
And so I need to get to the office and do paperwork and stuff first.
Wow. That is early, though.
I got a couple of longshoremen that they say, they're surprised that a doctor's office is open at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
But I like getting stuff done first,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you have an incredible schedule because you're waking up that early, but then you're also doing a full work day, and then you're doing talks at night. It's incredible. How?
Yeah, I got to have an understanding wife. My body and brain are okay. You get a friggin' relationship that can tolerate that. It's like, my God, my wife is going to be sainted.
All the research. And,
I don't know how you do it. That's tough.
Yeah. But it's so much fun because when you learn stuff, you want to tell people. It's like blood pressure. Mm-hmm. The silent killer. Bull. It's not the silent killer. It's adaptive. Without high blood pressure, your body would die. Without any blood pressure, your body would die. Look at it as a clue to your physiology. What kind of things do you need to maintain healthy physiology? Healthy nervous system, deep sleep, good nutrition, exercise, and good thoughts, prayer and meditation. Because we could sit here and I could think scary stuff that would raise my blood pressure. Mm-hmm. Okay, but that's adaptive. It's not pathologic. Your body doesn't do stupid stuff. I want to go up and shake these doctors that are prescribing toxic medications and saying, do you realize that if you're taking a beta blocker, a diuretic, or an ACE inhibitor, you're decreasing oxygen and nutrients to the tissue? Could that be contributing to the acidic environment that human beings are suffering from? Is that also causing the increased cancer rates? What about Alzheimer's and dementia? 4 times the amount of money is spent on dementia in this country than cancer, but no one's talking about it. Do you think that's because of low blood pressure or unhealthy blood, not getting enough oxygen to the brain? Wait, let me get off of the soapbox. That was a little uncomfortable.
I liked it.
But it drives me crazy. For God's sake, respect the body. Jesus, it's smart. Yeah. And don't try and second guess it with an herb or anything. By God, herbs, nutrients, vitamins, they are vital. Jesus, vitamin D3, not just in lowering blood pressure. How is it in cancer? Mm-hmm. You want to cut your breast cancer risk in half? You take vitamin D3. But why? Is it D3 deficiency, or does it help your body's natural processes to strengthen the immune system? Mm-hmm. Yeah. The high blood pressure is not a disease. It's adaptive.
It's just an indicator of what's going on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what do people get when they sign up to BP class? Because I know you got a free giveaway there, right?
Yeah, we've got I think there's 4 videos that are free.
Okay.
And I think they get a booklet.
Like a PDF they can download.
Yeah. And then we've got a series, I think it's about 5 hours of videos where we cover, everything. We cover how to sleep. We cover how to breathe. People don't know how to diaphragmatically breathe. Mm-hmm. We cover what blood pressure is, how to communicate with the doctor that doesn't understand. These medical doctors are taught that it's the silent killer. No, it's not. Okay, no doctor in the country is talking about that it's adaptive physiology, that by God, if your blood pressure is high, you need it high. The intelligent response is to look at the nutrition, look at the blood viscosity, look at the health of the body. What are the stress loads that are causing your blood pressure to be high?
Toxic exposure, stress, malnutrition.
Absolutely.
So you teach people how to interact with their doctors. What a crazy world that we have to learn how to interact with a doctor. What a waste of time.
I do say fire the doctor a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, because if you look at Harvard Medical School and the New England Journal of Medicine, what are they saying about the annual physical? Do you know?
No.
They're saying, do not do it. Do not utilize the American medical system if you have no symptoms. This is a direct quote from Harvard and New England Medical Journal.
How do they say that? They're part of the system.
They're part of the system, but they're also aware of the statistics.
So they have to say that?
There's an inverse relationship with the amount of money you spend in the American medical system and health. An inverse relationship. The more money you spend on there, the less healthier you are. And so you're not supposed to utilize it but if you're asymptomatic, you're not supposed to go to the medical world.
So they've said this, but they're not really publicizing that they said it, right? But they said it.
It's in the New England Medical Journal.
So it's there if people want to find it, but you're not going to catch that on the nightly news, you know?
Nope. Because even though statistically you have a greater risk of developing disease and getting sicker if you go to the medical doctor on an annual basis, some doctors are still recommending it, even though it's not based in science, because they feel it's a good idea to develop a relationship with a medical doctor.
Ask your doctor.
Ask your doctor if this is right for you. He doesn't know. You know, is there any study out there that shows that the antacid with the diuretic or the beta blocker, or is he going to teach you how to deep sleep? Is he going to teach you that your body is intelligent and self-healing and self-regulating? And this is what you need to self-heal and self-regulate? Yeah, I got a unicorn in my car too. You know? Those animals don't exist.
Yeah. Wow, what a strange thing. My mom is on medication, or is she on medication? Or she was at some point for some heart issues or something like that. Or maybe cholesterol, something like cholesterol. And so she got off, but she was so scared about telling her doctor, because she told her doctor one time, and her doctor freaked out on her, said, you know, I'm not going to see you as a patient anymore, and all this stuff, and just really read her the riot act for not taking the medication. And it's just amazing to me, because, like, you know, if I have high blood pressure and the doctor puts me on medication, I just decide, hey, I don't want to take it anymore. You know, why are you going to go to the doctor to tell him that? Why don't you just not take it if that's what you want to do? You know, why do you have to go to the doctor to proclaim that to him?
That the doctors work for the patients, and patients forget that. We had one of the most dramatic events at my office yesterday that it's still I'm confused with. I'm very confused. This woman, she was diagnosed with breast cancer about 8 months ago. She didn't want to get the radiation, surgery, chemotherapy. She didn't want to do any of that stuff. She asked my opinion, and I said, well, you know, we strengthen the immune system, the breast cancer goes away. She said, it can't be that easy. I said, yes, it is that easy. And her husband is saying, look, get the mastectomy, get the chemo, get the radiation, do this. Of course, the oncologist, that's his job, you know, let's do this all. And she says, no, you know, let me just take care of this. It's slow growing. Let me just see how this works. She goes through what we do, you know, and we just talk about the physical, chemical, and emotional stress load, strengthen the immune system, and she feels better than she has in years. She's sleeping better. She has absolutely no symptoms. She still has the small lump on the left-hand side of her breast, but it's very small. It's not growing, and she feels incredible. So now, a week ago, she comes in and she says, you know, they're doing an experimental drug, okay, that my oncologist wants me to take. And my husband is bugging me. He's been bugging me for 9 months to get on this experimental drug that's only 90-day trial. And they're going to pay for the drug. And it's the latest experiment. Okay. And I said, are you sure you want to do that? You know, I mean, I'll treat you. I'll keep you as a patient no matter what, but you're a lab rat. And she says, you know, I really appreciate you, but, you know, I've got to do it to shut my husband up.
Wow.
So she goes in. I see her yesterday. And she said, you know what? Before I went to do the drug trial, they did 4 biopsies. They shoved 4 needle points in the tumor to check to see, you monitor the cancer. All of the samples turned out negative. She is cancer-free. She still has a breast lump, but she's cancer-free now.
So what are those? So what happened? The cancer?
It went away.
It left.
Went away.
Yeah, and you'll see, when you see our Women's Health Talk, a lot of tumors, even malignant aggressive tumors, spontaneously resolve. Mm-hmm. And the medical community is confused by that. Okay, but hers spontaneously resolved. It's gone. There's no more cancer.
So she still has more than one lump, but
no, she just has one little lump.
Just the one lump, but there's no cancer.
Yeah, they keep doing biopsies. It's going to shrink because they keep stabbing the heck out of her.
Yeah.
So pincushion.
Okay, so now get this. Gail diagnosed with cancer. Now she has no cancer. She's feeling better than she has ever. She was signed up for an experimental drug, and she tells me, she says, you know, they can't blame that experimental drug because they did the biopsy before I started the drug. and my mouth drops. And I said, wait a second. They know you don't have cancer, but you still signed up for this test to take this drug for cancer? What ethic or moral reason would they have to put you in a program other than finding out what side effects you're going to develop because they can't gauge the reduction of cancer because you don't have freaking cancer?
My goodness.
Okay. I don't know. How was your week? That was the most dramatic thing that happened to me last week.
And she couldn't back out? She couldn't backpedal?
I don't know. I wouldn't think so. I would say, well, I don't have cancer, so cancer drug probably wouldn't be a... What are you going to gauge? What are you measuring?
That is a crazy week.
Geez, you started at 0 and you still got 0. Okay, so all we're going to do is measure the side effects. So I bring that up for insane stupidity. And 100 years from now, having a doctor second guess a human being to say, yeah, I'm smarter than your body. I'm going to give you a drug to lower blood pressure to your brain and your organ systems. And I'm going to tell you that it's making you healthy, even though you develop different disease rates. By God, just look at the side effect of the beta blocker, the ACE inhibitor, and the diuretic. Yeah. You want cardiac arrhythmias? Take a diuretic, okay? You want increased dementia and stroke? Get the beta blocker and ACE inhibitor. That's just, oh man, I want to beat him with a stick. Man,
don't do that. You'll raise your blood pressure.
No, but I'll need higher blood pressure because my muscles are working harder.
That's right. You know, what's funny is, well, it's not funny, but I had a similar story to that. Is one girl I went to school with, she had cancer a few years ago, and she knew I did natural stuff, and I was really into this kind of stuff. And so I was talking with her on the phone, and she said, she's really been looking into natural remedies and things like that. And I said, well, what do your parents want? And she goes, she said something, it was so creepy the way she said it. She said, if I don't take chemotherapy, my parents will kill me.
Wow.
And she ended up dying of colon cancer. I think this was a few years ago. She's only 36. It's like 4 years ago. Yeah. I mean, unbelievable, right? I mean, and talk about, that's that same kind of pressure that you were talking about. This lady's husband, her doctors want her to take all this stuff, and
it's interesting. I brought this case up on the women's health or on the breast cancer talk I did a few weeks ago, and her husband watched it, and she told me, she says, he made me sound like an asshole. And
wait, she told you that you made her look like that? No,
that her and her husband watched the breast cancer talk that I did. During the breast cancer talk, I brought up
their story
about how the husband was forcing the wife to get this, even though she was not sick and feeling good. And he said, Dr. Bergman made me sound like an asshole. And I said, no, I think forcing a spouse to do something that's against their wishes, I don't think that's appropriate. Even though it was probably done out of love, he probably loves her a lot.
Out of fear.
Thinks that this is the best thing for her, right. And that's the interesting, the opposite of love is fear.
It's either love or fear. And obviously if you're making all choices out of fear, you're going to not choose the best.
That's yucky.
Gosh, that's a horrible, crazy story.
Yeah. So bpclass.com is where people can get
bpclass.com.
And so you're teaching people there through video and through instructions on how to talk with their doctor, how to get off medication, or how to taper off, or what's the instructions there?
And that's the neat part, because sick people really need drugs. Once you go through the class, you're going to be taking your own blood pressure. You write it down. You call the healthcare professional that gave you the drugs to slow it down, and you say, hey, I've done some lifestyle changes. These are my numbers. Which ones can I start to reduce? 100% of the time, because the doctors know the more drugs you're taking, the sicker you are. That's well known.
Yeah.
And so this is the trippy part. So they'll say cut the dose down or scale 1 in half. So, typically that'll happen for a couple of weeks and you'll still see the blood pressure lower. And so you keep having a dialogue with the doctor. And it usually takes about a month to get off all of them.
Wow.
You start to notice a difference in about a week.
Wow.
And it's BP, not BEE. B like the letter, P like the letter, class. like stuff I don't really have a lot of. I do. I got a potty mouth sometimes. I can't. Some things come out, and I think, oh my gosh,
that's okay. They're just words, right?
Brain to mouth filter isn't working on me.
No, but that's cool because with this lifestyle change, with you're changing the numbers. But what's cool is that people are sort of inadvertently, I mean, they're focused on the numbers when they go through your class, right? And getting that number down. But what's cool is that they're making all these other changes, because when people, they think, oh, I'm going to try to heal my cancer naturally. But in reality, they're making their entire body stronger. So they're working on their heart, their circulation, all these other systems in their body. They don't know it because they're just focused on the one thing. But what's cool is that by taking these people through all these lifestyle changes, I mean, their whole health and life is getting better, not just some number,
Exactly. That's the greatest joy. I mean, when I'm working on these people, and let's say they've been with me for 2-3 weeks, by that time they're off of the blood pressure drugs. And after about 4 weeks, they stop checking it, because if you check it every day or a couple times a day and you do the same 10-minute deep breathing and it's always the same reading, why the heck am I going to check it again? I don't have 10 minutes to waste. Okay. And so I'll be adjusting them, and, I've been up since 5, adjusted about, 70, 80 people. And I'll say, hey, Bob, what's your blood pressure this morning? He said, I don't know. I didn't check it. What's yours? I said, I don't know. Probably real high right now. And then you start to find out that it's a poor indicator of health.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. What is that plaque on your wall when you go into your hallway towards the office? Right there on the left, there's a whole plaque where there's
drugs.
Someone got off all these medications, and I think it was like all the pills on there or something.
Mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's amazing.
We have one gal from Arizona that was on 14 different drugs. And she couldn't walk. She came in on a walker. And we have the next one down the hallway. It's like a window box. She was on 13 different drugs. Wow. And got and that's what blows me away. The average person over 60 today is taking 12 prescriptions.
Average person over 60?
Well, I don't know. Ask your doctor if it's right for them. Think of that. No, there's no study that shows the cholesterol beta blocker, the omeprazole, the antidepressant, and the sleep medication don't interact.
That's crazy. I know. There's no studies.
There's no study. No. This is the drug culture, and it's 100 years from now, people will look back and say, my God, how could you be suckered into that ignorant system? Yeah. That doctors are so arrogant that they think your body is dumb and stupid, and you need this to regulate your own physiology.
That's bizarre.
Yeah. We're changing that world.
That's good.
Oh, she's drug free and now walking. She doesn't have even a cane. But yeah, that's
so great.
It's so cool.
Great.
Did we see, was that this week we saw an article on a study about Tylenol, how apparently it affects people's ability to be empathetic?
Yeah, did you see that?
My gosh, what is going on?
Well, think of Tylenol. I mean, nobody knows the clinical pharmacology, the mechanism of action of Tylenol. It's completely unknown. And
really?
It depletes glutathione levels. Glutathione is what protects your brain. So when they give a kid a vaccine and they need glutathione to protect their brain, what do the medical doctors say? Take Tylenol to relieve the fever that is going to develop from the vaccine. It also depletes inhibits protein glycan production, which is the building block of cartilage. Oh, you got joint pain? Take Tylenol. Yeah. Problem is that destroys the building block of cartilage that keep your joints healthy.
We're living in a weird world.
It's
weird world.
Just watch the movie Idiocracy.
Ooh, I haven't seen that one.
Okay.
Oh yeah, is that I've heard you mention that before. Is that pretty good?
It's
on Netflix.
Pretty similar to what we're living now.
Do you need therapy afterward?
No,
it's so disturbing.
You got to see it. It's because the people in charge haven't a clue. The health authorities are killing people, and the people that are growing the food can't grow food. I mean, it's just like what we're doing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Yeah, we're going to change this world.
We know what we're doing Friday night tonight.
That's right. Friday night.
What?
Becoming idiots. Idiocracy.
No, we're going to watch the idiots.
Yeah, we'll watch the idiots. We're not going to become the idiots.
You're going to like it.
Wow.
All right. So bpclass.com is the best place if people want to go and learn about this, right?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Doc.
buddy, thank you so much for doing this. If you know how many times people come in and say, I heard you on Justin and Kate, and it was like, really?
Oh, that's cool.
Oh God,
it's a blessing for everybody.
Yeah, for people that don't know, you have a YouTube channel. You do talks. I think you've been doing talks for years, but you have a YouTube channel. How many videos do you have on that thing?
I think almost 700.
Okay, so and they're all like a half hour, an hour long, right? Yep. Talks and things. So you have tons of stuff on there.
Yeah, I think almost 130,000 subscribers. So we're getting pretty popular.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Stay safe.
Yes.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Hey, everybody. This is Josie, Justin's mum. Don't tell him, but I know he would absolutely be really happy if you would sign up to his free weekly newsletter. And don't forget to share this with all your friends. This is the buzzing bumblebee signing off.
That's so good.
Oh my gosh.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action based on any information in this blog or to start any health program without first consulting a health professional. The content found here is for informational purposes only and is in no way intended as medical advice, as a substitute for medical counseling, or as a treatment/cure for any disease or health condition, and nor should it be continued as such. Always work with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, prescription drug use, lifestyle, or exercise activities. This information is provided as is, and the reader/viewer assumes all risks from the use, non-use, or misuse of this information.